In the depths of ancient time, before humans ever set foot on Earth, death walked on giant feet. This planet was not the gentle world we know today, but a stage for living nightmares where size was completely redefined. When the era of the dinosaurs ended, the planet thought it could breathe a sigh of relief, but hell was hiding an even more terrifying chapter. Savage mammals ascended to the throne of the earth, created by nature in a ruthless moment of pure wrath. Imagine a giant wolf the size of a full-grown rhinoceros, possessing a crocodilian jaw capable of grinding rocks and shattering bones. It was Andrus Arcus, the first Avenger, who turned the ancient plains into an arena of sheer slaughter and relentless hunting. Its heavy footsteps alone sent vibrations of terror into the hearts of panicked creatures miles away. And it was not alone in that hell. It shared its rule with a beast scientifically dubbed the terrifying Hell Pig. Entelodont, a hybrid nightmare between a hog and a panther, yet it towered like an impenetrable wall of bone that struck absolute dread. It walked among the dead trees with a face heavily deformed by bony nodules which shielded its piercing, cold eyes. Its jaw was not meant for ordinary chewing. It was a hydraulic machine designed to crush skulls and suck out pure marrow. No predator dared to look into its eyes, for it devoured its dead and its enemies without any distinction. And in that time, the earth was not the only source of danger, for the sky rained down a swift, nightmarish death. If you raised your eyes toward the foggy horizon, you would not see singing birds, but flying demons blotting out the light. The colossal terror birds appeared, permanently erasing the concept of gentleness from the world of wings forever. These creatures stood 3 meters tall, armed with an immense, razor-sharp beak that resembled a polished axe ready for slaughter. They did not need flight to hunt, for their powerful legs allowed them to sprint with the terrifying speed of a panicked cheetah. They would strike their prey with a single downward blow from above, piercing solid skulls in a fraction of a second. And in the heights of the dark clouds, there stood an absolute master whom no one could challenge, the giant Argentavis. With a wingspan stretching a full 7 meters, it looked like a warplane crafted from flesh and jet-black feathers. It exploited the fierce gale winds to hover perfectly still, monitoring the micro-movements of life in the abyssal depths below. If its shadow caught a fleeing creature, it meant a death sentence had been passed, and the talons were closing in. And while the sky and the land were drenched in blood, an isolated continent was crafting its own horror in absolute silence. Australia, that closed, natural laboratory, which engineered creatures that the human mind could scarcely believe. There, reptiles did not shrink like on the rest of the planet, but expanded to become true dragons walking upon the stone. Megalania, the colossal lizard whose length surpassed 7 meters of solid, venomous scales. It crawled through the shadows of the trees, its saliva, dripping with deadly bacteria, running onto the parched earth. A single bite from it would not kill instantly, but left the prey to literally rot while still walking alive. And in its terrifying neighborhood lived a bizarre marsupial carnivore known as the fierce and swift marsupial lion. This monster was nothing like the lions of today. It possessed the strongest bite force in the entire history of mammals. Its retractable claws were like sharpened daggers, shredding the thick hides of prey as if they were rotting paper. It would ambush and pounce from above onto its panicked victims, snapping their necks before they could even comprehend the lethal strike. But the greatest horror was not just in the animals, but in the deceptive green nature itself that we see today. In eras long gone, plants turned into a suffocating prison that trapped breath and ignited massive deep fires across the planet. Oxygen levels were impossibly high, rendering the very air combustible at the slightest, simplest spark. Wildfires did not end in days. They raged for long months, burying the entire planet under a dense blanket of black ash. And bacteria had not yet learned how to decompose dead wood, so giant fallen logs stacked up, layer upon layer. This rare, catastrophic accumulation is exactly what transformed over millions of years into the coal we extract today. The Earth was a ticking time bomb, burning slowly under a furious, roaring sky that never knew peace. And in the midst of this raging environmental hell, the rules of the game began to shift in a silent and deeply unsettling way. A new strain of bacteria evolved and began consuming the accumulated wood, releasing massive, overwhelming amounts of carbon dioxide. Atmospheric oxygen collapsed, and with it fell the empires of carbon dioxide. Atmospheric oxygen collapsed, and with it fell the empires of giant insects and monsters that relied on it. The hot, humid climate turned into a biting drought, and the dense jungles died, replaced by parched, barren deserts. Those giants who believed they would rule the throne forever found themselves completely unable to breathe in the thin air. But this great extinction was not caused by climate alone. There was another factor silently shifting in the dark. The rise of smaller, highly intelligent predators turned the balance of power in nature completely upside down. Massive size, which was once an ultimate shield of protection, became a fatal flaw that made hunting easy and evasion impossible. Agile birds and clever mammals began raiding the nests, devouring the giants' eggs and destroying their lineages in the cradle. And with every million years that passed, the earth washed away the blood of the giants, turning them into fossils trapped beneath stone. And finally, the most dangerous creature of all arrived, early man, who put an absolute end to the era of the Great Horror. With sharp intelligence and small, primitive weapons, humans successfully hunted down what remained of these slithering nightmares. Megalania was no longer safe in its deep dens, nor was the marsupial lion able to hide high within the trees. The battle completely shifted from the raw power of muscle and mass to the dominance of the human mind and strict group strategy. And so the temporal gate slammed shut on the largest, most violent and bloodiest era in the history of this forgotten planet. The age of monsters ruling the earth with an iron fist and wings of thunder was brought to a permanent end, and in the end, nature left us with nothing but pale shadows of colossal ancestors who once ruled, then vanished. The small eagle we see today is nothing but a downsized descendant of those colossal, nightmarish kings of the air, and the tiny lizard resting on your bedroom wall carries in its hidden genes the ancient blood of the 7-meter Megalania dragons. It is the profound wisdom of creation. Survival belongs not to the physically strongest, but to those most capable of adapting and evading. Every single rock we step on today might be a tomb for a violent giant forgotten by written human history. We truly live on top of dense layers of fossilized nightmares that shaped the very details of our modern world. Imagine if these nightmarish realms had never collapsed. Would humanity have found a single place to survive? The inevitable answer is no. The planet would have remained a dark prison of absolute terror and guaranteed death. But the hidden laws of planetary physics always move with a precise cosmic balance that never fails, no matter what. When mass and tyranny surpass the allowed limits, nature quietly pulls the carpet from beneath their giant feet. The hands of ancient time move ruthlessly, folding away the pages of kings crowned in blood and brutal power. And the stable nature we see around us today is nothing but a temporary truce in the incredibly long history of the Earth. For the planet that altered its strict rules for insects and birds might change them for the human race one day, out of nowhere. The microscopic bacteria that ended the era of the Carboniferous forests still lives and moves among us today. and the gases that once dictated the sizes of prehistoric beasts are being shifted by our own industrial actions and advancement today. Everything is deeply connected in this vast universe, and every tiny event can build up into a catastrophic, merciless disaster. The story of the collapse of those ancient giants is not just dry history, but a silent, glaring warning to us all. Great empires always wither away the moment they falsely believe they hold all the keys to environmental dominance and power. The colossal terror birds truly believed they were the absolute masters of the earth, whose command could never be broken. But the stealthy ambush of the highly intelligent saber-toothed tigers turned their great empire into historical dust in mere moments. Long, razor-sharp fangs successfully ripped through the necks of those massive birds, no matter how powerful their bodies were. It was a brutal, crushing battle for survival, where nature wrote the ultimate finale for the masters of the lost wings. And in Australia, megalania owned everything around it, until the fresh waters dried up and the green plains perished. When natural resources shift, massive bodies become a crushing burden that drains vital energy until absolute demise. Smaller creatures survived with ease because they required very little food and water to sustain the wheel of life within them. This is how the truth of the earth was forged through the ages. Smallness is a hidden shield, and agility is true survival. Today we look back at that past with absolute astonishment, completely forgetting that we are part of the exact same system. Every single nightmarish beast we spoke of today was once an invincible king in its own designated world. And today, we are the newly crowned kings, walking over their ancient soil and building our towering modern civilization. But natural history never forgives the arrogant, and the earth recognizes no eternal ruler, no matter how intelligent they are. The geological storms of the future may be different, but their ultimate, final outcome will remain exactly the same. We search through fossilized remains for clear answers, yet we find nothing but a deeper, mesmerizing mystery. How could a slithering beast the size of a massive bus entirely vanish without leaving a single living descendant behind? It is the strict game of cosmic balance, creating the world of life and erasing it with the exact same efficiency and force. Those giant monsters lived for millions of years, while humanity's existence has been nothing but a mere brief blink of time. We are nothing but new guests upon this ancient planet, which is fully loaded with secrets of blood, fire, and darkness. When you walk through the dark night and hear a strange rustling sound, do not assume it is just a passing wind among the branches. Perhaps it is the echoing shockwave of ancient time, or a silent memory of a giant nightmare that was once an absolute master here. The ancient giants engraved their primal terror deep inside our genes, making us naturally fear the darkness without a reason. Our instinctive phobia of slithering and winged creatures in the dark is an ancient genetic inheritance that never dies. An inheritance that links directly back to a time when your primitive ancestor was the panicked prey at the mercy of the fangs. The mysterious journey into the depths of ancient time has ended, but the buried secrets have not, and will never finish. The earth remains an open book to everyone, but only for those who truly master reading the lines of soil and fossilized stone. Thank you so much for following this thrilling, nightmarish adventure into the forgotten, ancient history of our planet. And until we meet again in another story written in blood and time,